Teddiursa has been revealed to be the November Community Day Pokemon. So on Saturday, November 12th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. local time, Teddiursa will be spawning more in the wild. You'll have a better shot at getting the shiny. And then on top of that, you can evolve all the way to its second stage evolution from the Hisuian region, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Ursaluna. So that's pretty hype here, right? Ursaluna also, during this special community event, if you evolve all the way into it, will know a brand new ground type attack, High Horsepower, which is revealed to have 100 base power for trainer battles and 110 base power for raids. So the question is, just how good is Ursaluna in Pokemon Go? How good is it in raids? How good is it in PvP? And in this video, I will let you know all that I know regarding. But what I can tell you right now is that it is looking pretty good across all formats here. By the way, if you want to reference any of the information in this video in a text-based format, I'll link in the description to my article on GamePress talking about Ursaluna and its place in the meta. Without further ado, let's get into Ursaluna. So starting out with the basics here, Ursaluna is a normal ground dual type Pokemon. So that is different from Teddiursa and Ursaring. It does gain that ground subtyping, which is nice for high horsepower as you get the same type attack bonus on it. Its maximum CP at level 40 will be 3,854, and all the way to level 50, we got 4,358. Its attack stat is 243, which is quite solid. Very good attack stat to have on a Pokemon for raids. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. 181 defense, which is a little bit on the lower side, but not too bad. Makes up for that, though, with a big stamina stat of 277. As it stands right now, these stats and the typing puts it in a position to be a powerful contender for raids, and will also be quite good in PvP, as it does have enough of a bulk weight where it kind of offsets that big attack stat, right? How do you evolve Ursaluna? Well, it's not going to be like 100% available to us after the event. Apparently, you have to evolve Ursaluna during a full moon. And for the community day, there is going to be a full moon from the 12th until 6 a.m. local time on the 13th, the following Sunday, right? So that would be the period to evolve into Ursaluna. Right now, it's not clear, though, if future full moons in Pokemon Go will correlate with the standard meteorological event of a full moon, which happens basically monthly, or if it'll be Pokemon Go's own special FOMO moon that they whip out whenever they want to promote the fact that you can evolve Ursaluna. It'd make a lot more sense for it to just follow the full moon. So, you know, hopes are out there that it just follows the full moon and doesn't become some weird ass pull, right? So Ursaluna, what kind of attacks does it have? Well, right now we don't have a data mine on its moveset. However, Ursaluna is coming from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and Pokemon Go pulls movesets from the main series games, so Ursaluna's available move pool is limited to what it has in Pokemon Legends Arceus, and fortunately for Ursaluna, it has everything it basically needs to be good just from that game, right? So for the fast move options, we have Shadow Claw. Ursaring already has Shadow Claw, so I think it's fair to assume that we're going to get Shadow Claw on Ursaluna. If the sky turns black and John Hankey, turns his cheek on us or something, then we might be stuck with Tackle and Rock Smash. We're going to probably get one of those fast moves, but I think that it's extremely likely we're going to be getting Shadow Claw yet. Please let us get Shadow Claw yet, right? Then we got High Horsepower. And between Shadow Claw and High Horsepower, Ursaluna is able to kind of do everything that it needs to do well in raids and in PvP. So we could just stop right there, right? We got Shadow Ursaring in the game, so slap return on it, and you got nothing to worry about. Of course, we do have other moves to consider as well. It can get Hyper Beam and Giga Impact. Hyper Beam's already present on Ursaring, so I think we can kind of assume that to kind of carry over. There's also Play Rough, and Pokemon Go seems to like giving Play Rough to Pokemon that are kind of like quadrupedal, like Ursaluna here, like animal kind of Pokemon. So I think we can expect Play Rough 2, which is a little bit unfortunate. And then for the final third charge move, assuming we're just getting 3 charge moves standard, it'd probably be a ground type attack like Earth Power or Bulldoze, both of which don't matter because High Horsepower is expected to be better than both of them. So yeah, but there are some cool moves it could get too, potentially, right? If John Hankey decides to bless us with Sunshine, we could get Rock Slide, Stone Edge, or any of the Elemental Punches, all of which would be fantastic on Ursaluna, giving it a lot more consistency when it comes to PvP as high horsepower is expected to be a relatively high energy costing charge move. Then as far as high horsepower is concerned, it is revealed to be 100 base power for PvP, right? And I think that we can reasonably expect it to have a 55 energy cost, as it would fall right between Drill Run and Earthquake. So the average between those would come down to, 155. So that kind of makes sense, right? Of course, high horsepower could be a little bit better. They could make it a 50 energy cost charge move. That would be a bit surprising, but it would be a lot better there. It wouldn't be overwhelmingly powerful, but it would be quite good, right? Especially with the same type attack bonus. So I think 55 is a pretty modest, fair assessment. If it ends up with a 60 energy cost, then that's going to be kind of awkward. Like if it has a 60 energy cost, then I guess we're going to hope that Ursaluna gets Earth Power instead, right? So we could learn that. So fingers crossed, 55 energy cost. Then when it comes to the raid side of things, it's revealed to have 110 base power. So I think a reasonable sort of guesstimate would be it being as strong as like Outrage's. So a 2-bar charge move for raids, relatively high cooldown, but 110 base power, so kind of balances out. It could be better than that because Outrage does have a relatively long cooldown, so it could be even better, and that would make Ursaluna even better in raids. Of course, Ursaluna does have one glaring weakness in raids, and that is that it's a ground type attacker, but it does not have a ground type fast move. But don't let that make you think that Ursaluna is not going to be good in raids. Basically, for Ursaluna to be an optimal raid attacker, its target will have to be both weak to ghost and ground type attacks, right? And that's not terribly uncommon, right? Because any ghost or psychic type Pokemon that is also steel, rock, electric, or fire type, that would fall under that condition, right? And there are plenty of raid bosses that we can assume that have that going on. We got Mega Gengar, we got the future Mega Metagross. We also have the future Solgaleo and the future Duskmane Necrozma. And then with elite raids, there is the Hopium that we get like, Victini and Jirachi in raids. Guess who's weak to both ghost and ground type attacks? They are. And then we also got like the future Mega Man NT Warrior looking motherfuckers. What are their names? Amarogue and Crueledge, Cerulege. I don't know, but they're weak to Ursaluna, I'll tell you that much. And then, you got Alolan Raichu, you got Alolan Marowak. These are just some example Pokemon, right? Just know that they are out there and that they very likely will be common and sought after. So if you do love Ursaluna, you want to power it up all the way, it will very likely still be an effective raid type attacker. Here I have a little chart kind of showing off a little comparison on how it could compete with similar Pokemon in these raids where it's weak to both, ghost and ground type damage there. So you can see that Shadow Ursaluna is outpacing the Shadow Mewtwo, which is a pretty good start. And then for the normal Ursaluna, you can see that it's kind of in line with how like Garchomp and Landorus and Gengar are performing. So overall, a pretty decent all-around Pokemon, Shadow and non-Shadow. There are a lot of Pokemon that are omitted from this chart because I just tried to condense it there, give you a working idea of how this guy's gonna look, and it's looking pretty good. So Ursaluna, decent raid attacker, not your #1 raid investment, but not the worst raid investment ever. And to make this investment even sweeter, it's actually extremely good in the Master League, or at least is projected to be extremely good in the Master League. Shifting gears to PvP now, looking at the Master League, with just Shadow Claw, High Horsepower, and Return alone, Ursaluna is looking to be one of the best, if not the best, ground type attacker for Master League PvP. The reason why it stands out from the pack so much is A, it's a normal type Pokemon, right? And B, and most importantly, it has Shadow Claw. With Shadow Claw, Mewtwo, Lugia, both Giratinas, and Togekiss, because, neutral damage, become more vulnerable to the Ursaluna, which, a lot of the other ground type attackers, they can't flex that. They can flex some of that, but they can't flex all of that. And then because High Horsepower is expected to be 55 energy cost, it is a bit faster than the other ground type attackers too, so it's able to handle a lot of those mirror matchups pretty well on top of it. So Ursaluna looking like it's going to be a pretty big bruiser when it comes to Master League, even if it doesn't get a better secondary attack like Rock Slide or an Elemental Punch or something. And even if it were to get Rock Slide or an Elemental Punch, it would technically be better, right? But it wouldn't be such a massive upgrade for it in the Master League specifically. Where having those faster attacks will matter will be in the lower leagues. And before I talk about the lower leagues, I just want to also highlight that while Ursaluna will likely be the best ground type attacker for Master League PvP, I don't think it's going to completely replace every single other ground type attacker that's already good. All of them have their own kind of niches, right, that allow them to stand out in an interesting way and get an advantage over the opponent. It's just that Ursaluna's advantage, its niche, is having a ghost type attack to slap stuff with while resisting Giratina. So its niche is just more ubiquitous, but that doesn't mean that your Landos and your Excadrills and your Groudons are completely out of a job here. I wouldn't be sweating that. Just know that Ursaluna is going to be very, very strong, most likely. Of course, it might not get Shadow Claw, it could get Tackle and Rock Smash. That'd be weird. Then moving on down to Great League and Ultra League PvP, the primary Pokemon to compare Ursaluna to is going to be Galarian Stunfisk, the other main ground type attacker. Although it does also function like a normal type Pokemon, so you could technically compare it to like Lickitung and Licky Licky as well. And then obviously Diggersby sitting right there. But bringing it to G-Fisk, the more meta of the Pokemon, Ursaluna sports better Ghost type matchups because Shadow Claw, normal type, obviously. And even if Ursaluna got Rock Slide or Ice Punch or something, Galarian Stunfisk would have the superior flying type matchups. So I think overall that's a good way to look at it. Also to add to that, Ursaluna is faster than the Galarian Stunfisk is on the draw there with the high horsepower, likely being a 55 energy cost move. So you could beat G-Fisk on top of it. Just how good and how flexible Ursaluna is going to be in Great League PvP, though, is mostly going to come down to what it has for those secondary moves. If it is just return, then it's probably going to be more on the spicy side, right? Like, it'll be threatening. Like, the ghost types don't want to deal with it, and it's got the high horsepower, so, steel types are kind of afraid too, poison types kind of shaking in their boots, but it will still be on the slow end because, 55 as your fastest attack, that's not very fast, even with the Shadow Claw, so that could be a big limitation for it. That said, if we get Rock Slide or an Elemental Punch, we could see Ursaluna being a household name. Probably not the top of the meta, but a pick that you would see quite often, especially in the C6 formats that we have for the tournaments. As for the comparison to Diggersby and a lot of the other like normal type Pokemon, Ursaluna doesn't really have the same sort of stat product. It doesn't have the same bulk that they have going on. So in a lot of neutral matchups, they will be the superior pick just because they can out bulk and out neutral a lot of threats such as like Umbreon and Charmers, that kind of idea. So Ursaluna will just be different. It's not a straight upgrade to anything in the Great League or Ultra League PvPs. It's just doing the job like they are, but a little bit differently. A spicy kind of side grade. Pending on its second moveset, it might be a wee bit better, question mark, right? And then final thing to note for Ultra League is that we do have a new big toy coming on the horizon here soon, and that is the Shadow Force Giratina Altered Form. I haven't found the time to do a Giratina Altered Form Shadow Force video yet, and looking at my work schedule, I might not have the time until we actually get the data mine on it, so... but no matter how you slice that pie, Shadow Force Giratina Altered Form is going to be extremely powerful in the Ultra League, possibly dominating the meta in a way that Giratina hasn't dominated it in a couple of years here. And of course, Shadow Force is a really big ghost type attack, so Ursaluna would be coming in here to doubly resist that in a pretty big way. Other thing to note about Ursaluna too in this kind of circumstance is like you do have the dark type Pokemon like Scrafty and Obstagoon that they're kind of flexible, right? And they can beat down on the Ursaluna here, but they can't tolerate Dragon Breath Giratina Altered Form, right? So Ursaluna is able to handle, both ends of the spectrum while also having that ground type coverage for like Registeel and Galarian Stunfisk and Nidoqueen. So I think that it could make a name for itself in the Ultra League, just based on Shadow Force Giratina kind of taking over here. But we'll have to see what ends up happening, especially with the stats on Shadow Force pending there. Now, when it comes to PvP, which Ursaluna is going to be the better Ursaluna? Is it going to be the Shadow Ursaluna or the normal, non-Shadow Ursaluna? And I'd say in most circumstances, it's going to be the normal. Actually, not just the normal, but very likely the Purified Ursaluna, right? Because then you get Return. Return has the same damage per energy as Hyper Beam, but it comes a little bit earlier, and it's got the same type attack bonus, so that would probably be the bread and butter combo for Ursaluna, unless it gets like Rock Slide or an Elemental Punch added to its moveset. Shadow could stand out though in Great League or Ultra League PvP if the Shadow bonus to the Shadow Claw allows it to farm down stuff a little bit, more comfortable. If it's able to close out fights, in that extra special kind of way, we could see it stand out that way. But as it stands with what information we have, it does look like the Purified or the normal is going to be the general preference, with the Shadow being more of a spice pick. An important thing to note too, with Purified Ursaluna, this really kind of sucks in a way, but the way Community Day moves work is that they override your first attack, right? And when it comes to Shadow Pokemon, when you purify them, that first attack will always turn into Return. Even if you 2-move it, it's going to be the first move that becomes Return, right? So your Purified Ursaring would evolve into an Ursaluna, but it wouldn't have Return anymore. It would have High Horsepower. And you can't Elite TM Return, you can't TM or Elite TM Return back onto a Purified Pokemon. I know it sounds bogus, it sounds like it shouldn't work that way, but it does work that way. So basically, if you have a Purified Ursaring, already purified, do not evolve it during Community Day if you want the combo of Return and High Horsepower. You have to evolve it sometime after the special move evolution hours, and then Elite TM High Horsepower onto that Ursaring. If you have a Shadow Ursaring and it's Frustration TM'd, similarly, you're going to have to wait to evolve, right? Because it would override that first attack there. So you got to Elite TM it. No matter how you slice this pie, if you want Return and High Horsepower on your Ursaring, no matter how you divvy up the cards, Purify, Win, Evolve, then, you're going to have to use an Elite TM to get High Horsepower on it, or you're going to override the Return, which, not that great. And it definitely sucks having a Pokemon coming out of the box where it's like, oh, no matter how you cut it, you're going to have to spend an Elite TM. Like, that is kind of lame. So hopefully they do something to ease this up a little bit, right? Because I imagine there are going to be a lot of trainers that have their, Shadow Ursaring or Purified Ursaring ready to rock and roll, and they're going to get rid of that Return, and they're going to get High Horsepower, and then they're going to learn later that they ain't going to be able to get that Return back. When it comes to Hyper Beam and Play Rough as other options that it will likely get, they're not that bad at the end of the day. It's just that Return is going to be much more consistent. So if you are like a big brain, high-end battler, you're really serious about PvP, you're really going to want to have that Return. So try to keep that in mind. Of course, once we get the full move set known from Pokemon Go on Ursaluna, we could have Ice Punch, we could have Rock Slide, we could have Stone Edge, and those would be moves that could replace Return pretty nicely, so it might not be that bad. For the time being, be vigilant and be mindful about how you approach the Ursaluna there, because you might be stuck with a suboptimal moveset, right? And that's all I gotta say right now about Ursaluna in Pokemon Go. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. Also, forgot to mention, this Community Day is also going to be pretty hype. It's going to be 3x catch Stardust, which is always exciting. So I'm down for it. Even if they give this thing Tackle Rock Smash, we're going to go hog wild for that Stardust, right?